I am Johanna Bermudez Ruiz. I'm an internationally award-winning director, writer, producer, and I was born here on St. Croix, and I've lived many places throughout the world. I fell in love with film when I went to college. I'm actually really proud of the education I got here in St. Croix. So I was on track to be an attorney. I entered as a political science major at Antioch College, and I fell in love with filmmaking. I thought and I still do think it's one of the most powerful mediums in art to help people, particularly people of color. That was, at the time, there weren't many people of color that were making movies, making films. And I wanted to, as an attorney, represent people's rights. So when I got into filmmaking through my friends at college, I realized that I could probably make a huge difference no matter what race, what economic background, whether someone a person that has disabilities, no disabilities, a sensibility of art that can contribute to people's ways of thinking on a higher level and a higher frequency. And so I've kept that mission since I entered college and shifted into filmmaking. This work is about, the mission is about doing work that helps people, right? Worldwide. We're part of the worldwide fabric as Virgin Islanders. Even though I say we're in the middle of nowhere because we're surrounded by beautiful turquoise water. That's why I chose to be here. Other than being in New York or LA or somewhere else, there's a mission. And so for me as an artist, and from other artists, I think the aspect that should be the ultimate goal is to create change. She, to me, it's a Black woman, young woman, who's extremely sad. You know, she's leaving the Virgin Islands. And it's a story where many people, and it's very relevant today, where often enough we have to go. Whether it's for education, whether it's for economics, whether it's for love, whether it's for health. And I probably, oddly enough, feel like she's a part of my ancestral fabric. She's so looking at the camera, and there's no actual fear looking right at the camera. There is fear, there is stress, there is sadness, there's a story being told. You know, she's wearing that bow. That's a prideful bow. You know, there's a lot to say about that bow. She's just a part of a story that we still, I think, need to hear more about. Sugar Pathways came out of the work and legacy I wanted to leave behind for the Virgin Islands as I move to being within popular culture, within film. So it's my giving back as a way to, for example, digressing, Vieques and Forging Futures, which is a short film. It's 20 years old, plus it's more than 20 years old, and yet it's still being showed. Yet people are still asking me to talk about it. Yet it's wanting, I've had people in France tell me, will you make another movie like that? You send that to me. We don't want to see sugar pathways. No. This movie documents 100 years of history, particularly from the Vieques migration to the U.S. Virgin Islands and Culebra. Why? Because our islands were militarized islands. Prior to the genocide of the indigenous people that occurred through Christopher Columbus looking for gold and being lost and whatnot, we equally shifted between many different hands. And the U.S. Navy was, whether people like it or not, it's just a fact. And it's a fact that hurts human beings at times, because we have people who are soldiers who are part of the militarization, and they've made well do from it. There's no offense in the fact that, unfortunately, our ancestors too paid a price, whether Virgin Islanders, which is still an untold story of what the impact has been through the submarine, that I was just recently been told, through the submarine practices that were going on, the coral reefs that were damaged that I just recently learned about because of the Navy ships and how they extracted with their anchors all the coral that was beautifully in Frederickson. I had no clue. When those topics are discussed as human rights issues, then it becomes an issue where you're kind of going against the grain. I don't want to go against the grain, but these are facts that, as they say in the African proverb, Sankofa, you have to remember to understand. We didn't just bond here, and we just didn't show up and spit, like someone says, and not to be rude, but spit and boom, we grew up and the plant was grown and boom, we're here. No, we have a legacy. Casper Holstein is a legacy. William Saladisper is a legacy. Of course, Queen Mary is a legacy. Those are three different examples of different legacies. We have to shift the paradigm of pain to happiness to facts and have them all there. But we're not just one Virgin Islanders. We're not just one Virgin Islands without a legacy. We have a profound legacy. Well, I'd say that I've been doing filmmaking from a very young age, right? So my first, probably without knowing that film was going to be my profession, that my parents had a Super 8 camera and they filmed everything. So my passion for moving images was probably when I was 5 and 6, because we had Super 8 camera, and I would ask, can I see our family movies? So growing up in St. Croix, as a native Virgin Islander, cruise ship, a family that has contributed significantly to the community, I felt like I had, at the time, a lot of recognition. So growing up in a grocery store where people are coming in and out every day, my life was not private, it was public. So it was celebrated. We were all celebrated. When I think the question for me is leaving home and being recognized for my work. That to me is most significant for me, in the sense that choosing an art form that at the time was not cool, like what you're doing today, was not acceptable 20 years ago as a profession in the Virgin Islands per se, right? Because of whatever reasons, because our model is really, particularly St. Croix, is the refinery. Our model is business administration. Our model in St. Thomas is tourism. So those are the professions that are really well respected. When I finished the documentary Vieques and Island Forging Futures, and doing a short piece in my very early 20s, mind you that I was already recognized for another piece I did on domestic violence, which was utilized in colleges and schools. And I was still in college, and now it's being picked up for academic purposes. So with Vieques, that type of recognition where it went worldwide, where it was shown in Japan and India and the UK, It's archived in the British Film Institute, which is equivalent to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts. Those were like astonishments that I was just like, wow. When I moved to St. Croix, right, and I did sugar pathways, right, I honestly thought that all the education that I garnered through film and being in the room with so many different people still today, right, when we hear about in popular culture that the industry is shifting for women and women of color and Black women, right, I'm always in the weirdest place because I'm Black, I'm Latina, I'm this, I'm that. And I really have always forever identified myself as Indigenous, Afro-Indigenous, Caribbean. That's always the case. That always finds people like myself when we're others, when we're different, when we're not the common human being that we're used to, in a position where either we can choose to stay behind the light or in the light. I choose to be in the light. For the Virgin Islands, my mission has always been and continues to be to develop the Virgin Islands as a bona fide Hollywood independent community. So I think when I realize how long it's taken to develop that, and that mission where I see my colleagues in Dominican Republic, my colleagues in Puerto Rico, my colleagues in New York, but particularly my colleagues in the Caribbean, because that's how I know how much work am I doing, is that in the 10 years or so that I've been home, I'm seeing their movies being accepted at the Academy Awards or in film festivals, and that their industry is thriving because they're supporting their own. We have a tendency, again, and it's all because of major Clendenin, we all have to go. And we believe that outside at times is better than home. And those that come from outside are better than us breed at home. And so I don't want to say it's my lowest, it's just the mission is taking longer than I could ever have imagined.